Welcome to today's brand origin deep dive. You've heard of the product, but do you know how stepping into a forgotten archive and uncovering a simple, dismissed idea reshaped its global image forever? We're not just tracing history. We're stepping into the dust motes and whispered anxieties that birthed a revolution. If you find value in this kind of storytelling, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps more than you know. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from or what your first memory of this brand is. Let's dive in and discover how it all began. You step into a forgotten corporate archive, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and silent ambition. Dust motes dance in thin shafts of light filtering through high windows, illuminating row upon row of sealed boxes, labeled with cryptic project names or defunct subsidiary titles. This is where stories are filed away, deliberately or accidentally. You are searching for something specific, the ghost of a product that changed everything, yet whose true origins remain shrouded in corporate mythology and selective memory. You follow a trail, perhaps a faded memo pinned to a corkboard, a strange serial number scrawled on a prototype box, or the echo of a forgotten sound effect described in a salvaged engineering log. The journey begins not with a fanfare, but with a barely audible hum from a long deactivated server rack. The air cools as you move deeper, the silence pressing in. You are looking for the story of Project Purple, not the glossy keynote, but the whispers before the storm. The anxieties etched into late-night sketches, the human cost behind the glass. This first section takes you back to the earliest, most uncertain rumblings of the project that would become the iPhone. You sift through early concepts, failed predecessors like forgotten PDAs or canceled communication devices, some looking less like phones and more like futuristic doorstops, and handwritten notes from founders expressing doubt and immense pressure. You discover the initial, almost absurdly simple idea, a phone without physical buttons, dismissed by many internally as impractical or even childish. The symbolic motif is introduced, perhaps the subtle, persistent hum of a device powered on in secrecy, or the recurring shape of an imperfect circle found in early design sketches, representing an idea trying to find its form. Sensory detail focuses on the texture of outdated plastic casings, the faint glow of old CRT monitors, the smell of solder and coffee grounds in late-night labs. The emotional shift is from historical curiosity to a dawning sense of the immense, almost impossible challenge this project represented, burdened by past failures and internal skepticism. Brand historians still debate whether the initial, almost offhand suggestion of a buttonless phone was truly revolutionary or simply a desperate swing in the dark. This period hints at the intense secrecy and internal conflict that would define the project's gestation. Building on what came before, you step deeper, moving beyond the initial spark and into the hidden labs where Project Purple truly took shape. It's here, far from any public gaze, that the ghosts of prototypes past reside. You witness row upon row of discarded attempts encased in protective plastic, some blocky and strange, looking like something from a 90s sci-fi film, others eerily prescient but hobbled by fundamental flaws. The sensory details tell a story of their own, the feel of cold, unyielding aluminum and glass, the precise click of buttons designed with care but ultimately removed. The air is sterile, anonymous, like a museum dedicated solely to failure. You uncover the stories, often overlooked, of dedicated engineers and designers who poured years into these iterations. This was an era of intense creative pressure, of relentless failure and constant reevaluation, taking a significant psychological toll. This immense volume of discarded work becomes a major turning point. Learning what didn't work defined what ultimately would. The purple codename itself feels like a quirky detail from this secretive time. Some say it was a developer's favorite color. Others whisper it was simply the only crayon left during a late-night whiteboard session. A simple origin for something that grew so complex. Look closely at some of these early designs, and you see the symbolic motif beginning to emerge. Perhaps the faint echo of the hum, an imperfect circle in a rejected logo or physical component. It represents not just the nascent idea, but the struggle to realize it. Brand historians still debate whether this agonizingly iterative process was an act of necessary genius or inefficient perfectionism. Could they have arrived at the final product with fewer stumbles? What's clear is the pressure here wasn't always harmonious. You see notes hinting at deep internal disagreements over the final form and function, foreshadowing personality clashes that would threaten to derail Project Purple entirely down the line. Building on the initial sparks and early concepts, the narrative enters its most heavily guarded phase, Project Purple. This wasn't just a codename, it was an operational philosophy. You see designated buildings with reinforced doors, teams compartmentalized so completely that colleagues in different wings worked on parts of the same puzzle without knowing the full picture. Code names like Whisper for the lead engineer or Echo for the chief designer weren't playful nicknames. They were security protocols. This extreme secrecy fostered an environment of heightened paranoia. Inside these hushed meeting rooms, the only significant light source, the glow of presentation screens displaying sensitive data. The dynamic tension among the core team became palpable. Visionary leadership, pragmatic engineering, and demanding aesthetic design were locked in constant, often late-night, argument. You hear anecdotes of impossible deadlines being dropped like bombs, fueling a relentless perfectionism that bordered on obsession and creating a cult-like focus required to bring the device to life. A major turning point, the true brand core element fiercely debated internally, was the controversial design choice for the device's primary touch surface, a specific, almost counterintuitive material finish. Engineers cited prohibitive costs and manufacturing hurdles. Designers argued it was non-negotiable for the intended tactile experience. This single detail consumed weeks of debate. The internal codename for this contentious texture? Unicorn skin. A quirky, lesser-known detail revealing the blend of the whimsical and the obsessive. You'd finally touch one of the few golden master prototypes, feeling that unicorn skin, and understand the fuss. The symbolic motif of the brand shifts, the initial hopeful hum becoming a low thrum of anxiety, the open circle of potential closing into a tight, secret loop. It's clear immense risk was being taken. Success was far from guaranteed, and analysts continue to question the reasoning behind some of the internal demands, hinting at the cracks forming under the pressure. Building on the intense focus on crafting the keynote device in the previous phase, you now enter the final, feverish months leading up to the infamous reveal. The atmosphere isn't celebratory. It's thick with frantic energy and gnawing doubt. You witness the relentless rehearsals, where the cracks in the carefully constructed illusion become glaringly obvious. Bugs plague the software, the system crashes unexpectedly, sometimes seizing up just seconds before the critical moment it needs to perform. This is where the keynote device itself becomes the ultimate brand core element. It's not just a unit, it's the unit, polished, calibrated, and prayed over, the single point of failure. There's a quirky, lesser-known detail. This specific presentation unit had a persistent, tiny glitch where a key interface sound wouldn't play correctly unless the ambient humidity was below a certain level. A small thing, but potentially disastrous under live conditions. Outside the secure walls, public perception and media speculation reach a fever pitch, painting a picture of imminent revolution. Inside, the contrast with the chaos behind closed doors couldn't be sharper. Step into the presentation hall before the crowds arrive, and you feel the building heat of the stage lights. There's an artificial, almost deafening silence that amplifies every internal fear. The device in your hand feels perfectly polished, a symbol of the surface perfection hiding inherent instability. The emotional shift here is a crescendo of unbearable tension. This isn't just a launch, it's an epic, terrifying gamble. Brand historians still debate whether the sheer audacity of proceeding with a product known to have such critical, intermittent flaws was brilliant strategy or reckless abandon. The fate of the entire company seemingly rests on this one unproven piece of tech. The symbolic motif is palpable. You feel the electrical tension in the air. See the device isolated under a perfect yet solitary spotlight beam. Every bug squashed, every successful run-through is foreshadowing, building towards the moment of reveal and highlighting the sheer calculated risks involved. Building on what came before, the applause slowly faded, replaced by the humming din of reality. You experience the immediate aftermath not as a seamless transition, but as a messy collision of triumph and turmoil. Skepticism, initially a distant murmur, grew louder as technical glitches emerged, freezing screens, dropped connections, features that simply didn't work as advertised. Supply chain nightmares materialized, bottlenecks appearing in unexpected places, leaving warehouses empty and customers frustrated. The device, hailed as revolutionary, was received in unexpected ways by a world still unsure what to do with a miniature computer in their pocket. Early marketing materials, so effective at generating hype, often missed the mark when trying to explain the device's everyday utility, leading to customer service logs filled with confusion and complaints about missing features. Analysts continue to question the reasoning behind not clearly communicating the device's. This era wasn't just about competitor launches scrambling to catch up, visually crowding store shelves with similar shapes. It was about the palpable shift in the technological landscape you could feel beneath the surface, here in the simple, now iconic early notification tones, and touch in the often clunky first protective cases. The emotional shift here is profound, from the peak of shared triumph to the vulnerable reality of execution and adaptation, revealing the immense pressure beneath the polished exterior. The symbolic perfect circle motif now feels fragmented, viewed through smudged or cracked screens, reflecting how the initial idea dispersed into the messy, imperfect real world. Yet these stumbles were also unintentional foreshadowing, hinting at the long-term impact, how navigating these challenges would teach the company crucial lessons, ultimately helping them redefine entire industries and human behavior in ways nobody could fully predict on launch day. You stand outside the corporate headquarters now, a familiar, imposing structure that casts a long shadow as dusk gathers. Building on the story we've explored, the tale of that audacious iPhone reveal isn't just a frozen moment in time. It's a continuous echo, reshaping the very fabric of how we connect, consume, and simply exist. This final section reflects on the enduring legacy of that unveiling, the seismic cultural shift it instigated, the industries it swept away, and the entirely new ones it conjured into being. The often unseen human cost woven into its global production and relentless consumption. You hold the device in your hand now. Its cool, smooth surface, a stark contrast to the rough edges of its secretive birth. Sensory detail floods in, the subtle vibration for a notification, the constant flow of digital information visible on the screen, the omnipresent glow of similar screens reflected in the eyes of passers-by in public spaces. Analysts continue to question the long-term societal impact of this pervasive connectivity, the subtle erosion of physical presence versus digital engagement, the brand's identity today, how it has evolved or perhaps calcified into something rigid since that audacious moment, is a complex tapestry. The symbolic motif, whatever form it took in your mind throughout this story, reappears one last time. Its meaning is now layered with years of history, representing not just the initial struggle or the moment of triumph, but the complex, often contradictory footprint it has left on the world. The emotional state settles into one of contemplation, a lingering unease. This device, born from intense secrecy and struggle, has become utterly ubiquitous, a silent observer and powerful shaper of modern life. And so the archive doors are closing. The questions they contain about innovation, power, and humanity's relationship with technology linger in the digital air. Is the story truly over, or is this simply the eerie hour, that quiet pause between one monumental reveal and the next technological earthquake? The history of the iPhone reveal wasn't merely about a phone. It was about the unveiling of a new human condition, and its full, complex story is perhaps still being written. One tap, one swipe, one whispered command at a time. As we reach the quiet conclusion of this journey, let the rhythm slow. We've traced a line from whispered rumors and clandestine labs to a device that lives in billions of pockets today. The key takeaway? Innovation isn't just about a gadget. It's a force of nature, capable of remaking the world in its image, for better or worse. The long-term brand legacy of that reveal is one of audacious vision made real, setting a bar that changed consumer electronics forever. Its cultural symbolism is profound, representing the modern era itself, seamless access, instant connection, and perhaps a touch of digital isolation. Lessons learned? That even the most revolutionary ideas face internal friction and external skepticism. That branding isn't just a logo, it's the story you tell and the experience you deliver. We end on a thought-provoking note, one that transcends the silicon and glass. And maybe, just maybe, the soul of a brand is never truly in its product, but in the people, stories, and stumbles that shape it, echoing through time long after the initial reveal.